So I want to talk about OKC, which means this video will very well maybe end up being a 10 out of 10. But this is a team that I have found particularly fascinating over the last few years, specifically in regards to how it has been managed. The way that Sam Presti has approached running this team has been video game-like in many ways, for better and for worse. But ultimately, through the power of hindsight, it appears as though he has pulled off some of the more heist-like trades in recent NBA history. And I think subsequently, because of those trades, as well as some pretty damn good drafting, OKC is not just an up-and-coming team. I think this could very well be a playoff team this year, and maybe even a really good playoff team. Not a contender. No way. But like, could they be a, 48 win team that would push a legit contender to 6, maybe 7? Yeah, I think they could potentially actually be that good. Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference in how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm. And this hinges on a few things. Now, first and foremost, gilgeous-alexander established himself as a top 10 player in the league last year. Now, maybe he doesn't hold that up going into this year, but I'm going to go on the basis that he probably does. So you're obviously going into this thing with a top 10 player, which obviously at maximum only 10 teams get to say, and obviously sometimes those top 10 players are on the same team, so you got a huge advantage there right out of the gate. SGA is awesome, but even if you were not familiar with OKC, you probably knew that SGA is awesome. So let me talk about some of their other players. Chet Holmgren is playing in the Summer League right now, and he has looked good as he did in the Summer League before. I actually got to see him live in the Summer League last year, and I'm probably going to see him again this year. Dude is just already displaying being an excellent defender, being able to cover so much ground, being able to protect the rim but also step out on perimeter shooters. It pays attention to space and how to use it. He's just like a really good defender, both from an intelligence and feel for the game standpoint, and of course he has the ridiculous physicals to take that to a ridiculous degree. Like, there's a lot of players who have ridiculous physicals who don't know how to use it to do the type of shit that Chet Holmgren does. So he's going to be huge this year, and he obviously was not around last year. I also think Jalen Williams, the forward, not center, definitely has star potential, and I also think he has shown enough polish early on that he could potentially very well be somebody who's like an 18 point per game guy like next year. Like, I think that it's well within the realm of possibility that he be a consistent go-to scoring option for them, and to do so fairly efficiently at that. I don't necessarily know that you bank on that type of a leap, but I genuinely think he showed so much, and like towards the last half of the season, that's not even that far from what his averages were. I think it was a few less points, but it was ridiculous efficiency. So J-Dub, very good basketball player, someone who I think absolutely has future all-star potential, as I do Chet. And I don't know much about the new guy that they drafted. Apparently he's a defensive oriented guy that can definitely use that. And Josh Giddey, if that three ball is good, man, if the defense is solid enough, which from what I can tell has been improving dramatically, on top of the three ball that's gotten better, but still ultimately not a reliable shooter. Yeah, he's gonna be very good if he just gets a decent three. Like, he's already pretty good now, but like 6'7" guy who can put the ball on the floor, really pass the rock and hit his open threes and play solid defense, man, that's a beautiful basketball player right there. So he's got a ton of upside. J-Dub, ton of upside. Like, I think having Josh Giddey be your fourth most intriguing and fourth highest upside player on your team, I think you have set yourself up well, on top of them having multiple other picks and a lottery pick from this year, again, as I mentioned. And going into the future, they have tons of draft picks. tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of draft picks, many of which, of course, are not their own. But, of course, they do also have their own. So they have a ton of picks from Houston, still a good amount from the Clippers. I think they have a Heat pick in there somewhere. They just have all the draft capital. They have so much draft capital, in fact, that most of it's probably not even going to end up being used on young players. I think what's going to happen is through this year, OKC is going to kind of solidify as like a legit team and not just a young team trying to be up and coming. I think that'll happen sooner rather than later. When that happens, I think OKC would very well trade those picks to round out the roster and make sure you have actually competitive pieces, role players, veterans, things like that. So they have enough assets to get the pieces of an extremely good core and then have a bunch of picks left over to then surround that core with the perfect complementary players. I think OKC could be really good next year, and I would even pick by the 2024-2025 season, I would take the over on them if it was like 48 wins. Anywho, I think I've made my point. The reason why I actually wanted to talk about them is I've kind of gone back and forth lately on abandoning the Chicago Bulls. They've never done me any damn good, and the fact that they're running back this team is insulting to me. It is, there's no other way to describe it. I am insulted by the fact that they would try this shit again. It seems to me that they clearly do not give a fuck if they're doing so. So I would not mind a little switch up, and Denver feels like the obvious pick, but I also feel like it's not hopping on a bandwagon thing, but to finally say like they are my favorite team after they won a championship would not feel ideal. I was invested very early on when I saw them make 2-3-1 comebacks back to back in the playoffs. I was like, okay, something interesting at the very least is brewing here, and I think interesting in a positive way. But yeah, that is it. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.
The pick that ended up being Franz Wagner. Is he just trying to make you depressed, Jacob?
If he wasn't trying to, he did anyways. God. Wendell, as soon as he went to Orlando, man, listen, I was defending Wendell Carter like my life depended on it from Bulls fans for 3 years, however long he was there, and I finally gave up on him a week before the Bulls traded him. Like I went on a whole rant where I was like, you know what, I'm done. I can't wait for Wendell to be good. He goes to Orlando, he's instantly excellent.
He's good, yeah.
God, man, that's
what is Orlando even missing? Is Orlando just missing a good coach?